Hello students, good morning all of you. Today I Rabindra Mohan Mishra from Sri Jagdamba Sanskrit College Batho am taking the class of Shastri first. Our examination is very near. We are revising for our coming examination. Today we see on his blindness a sonnet. The educative poem on his blindness is composed by John Milton. John Milton was a great religious poet. He became blind in his early days. Even though Milton does not understand why God has taken away his vision, he must be patient and he must learn to accept what is given him with dignity and grace. However, God is merciful. He has a master plan for everyone on his earth. Whatever he does it for a reason. Instead of railing against our bad fortune, we ought to accept it with a smile on our faces. This is the best way to serve God and to have faith in His master plan. This is the lesson that Milton sets out to teach through this sonnet. This poem is a marvelous sonnet. As we know, sonnet consists of 40 lines divided into an 8-line unit known as octave and a 6-line unit known as sestet. The octet and the sestet can together form a single stanza, which is the case in on his blindness, or appears as two separate stanzas. Since the 40 lines of the sonnet are not divided into stanzas, they are divided into meaningful segments. For the purposes of this summary, in order to make the poem easier to follow and understand, this poem is written in the first person. Hence, we can assume that the speaker of the poem is the poet himself. The poet in this poem says that the light has left his eyes even before half his life is over. That is, just when he is about to reach his middle age. The poet says that God has given him the talent of poetic composition, and if he is not able to produce something worthwhile using the talent, then he deserves to die. However, his talent has been rendered useless by the loss of his eyesight. Even so, He wishes to serve God by using his talent. He wants to be able to tell the true story of his life in his poetry, and that is perhaps why he is writing this sonnet on his blindness. He is composing this poem. The poet so that God does not become angry at him and think that he is wasting the talent that has been given to him. The poet is prompted to directly ask God a question. He asks God whether he would be cruel enough to expect something productive from a blind man as the prince as the price for providing him with the talent that has helped him earn his bread and butter thus far. However, the poet is a very patient man by nature. This component of patience in his personality stops him from posing the above mentioned question to God. His patience tell him that God does not ask for anything from a man. He does not ask for his gifts to be returned, nor does he expect every man to make use of those gifts. The ones who want to serve God in the best way possible only accept the hand they have been dealt gracefully and without any bitterness. The element of patience within the poet proffers him some advice to deal with the supposedly harsh ordeal of his going blind. His patience tell him that God is akin to a king who has many kingdoms under his dominion and countless subjects to do as he asks. There are similarly thousands of men on earth who follow God's every instruction to the letter and who hurry over lands and seas without a moment of rest in the fulfillment of the duties allotted to them. However, these are not the only people who serve God. There are also others who merely stand and wait for God to decide how their lives will go. Their only service to God is to accept whatever trial God puts on their path and to deal with such trials with courage and resilience. These people also serve God to the best way of their ability, and God loves everyone equally. In On his blindness, the poet John Milton explores his experiences with blindness and religious faith. The poem takes the form of Petrarchan sonnet. These traditionally focus on love and romance, but Milton subverts this in order to explore his relationship with God. Milton fears that his blindness will prevent him from doing God's work. This personification of patience tells him that even his idleness is useful to God if he continues to have faith. John Milton's poem on his blindness is an autobiographical sonnet in which Milton meditates on his own loss of sight. For most of his life, Milton had been able to see perfectly, but his late night reading and writing on behalf of the government of the short lived English Republic, in which he held a very prominent position, helped ruin his eyesight. The idea of losing one's sight is obviously a deeply troubling one. The blind person is suddenly at risk in all kinds of ways. The speaker in the poem feels vulnerable. He can no longer literally see his own way or easily protect himself from danger. Again, we see that Milton's On His Blindness is an Italian sonnet written in the first person as we have discussed earlier. In this, Milton explores how he feels about his blindness in light of his religious beliefs. This sonnet, written in the Petrarchan scheme, associate with 14th century Italian poet Francesco Petrarch, is divided into an 8-line octave and a 6-line sestet. The octave rhymes AB, BA, AB, BA. The sestet rhymes CD, CD. The sonnet is therefore a typical Petrarchan sonnet in form, but in subject matter, the poet departs from the topics usually associated with Petrarchan poems. Petrarch was most famous for writing about love. Milton departs from that conventional topic to deal with a very practical, very physical problem, but a problem with many broader spiritual implications. In short, we can say that this poem on his blindness is a very good sonnet which speaks to the frustrations Milton had regarding his lost sight. This poem reflects upon the idea that the speaker of the poem will not be able to serve humanity. They also serve who only understand